the 6th Uganda presidential election, 2011. The president of Uganda is one of Africa's longest-serving generals who won the 2011 election to a fourth term in office by a huge margin, according to the Electoral Commission. The same Electoral Commission results handed NRM 68% of the vote against challenger 𝐏𝐫𝐫𝐞𝐬, who only got 26%. Election observers at that time said that in what they term an unnecessary military presence on the voting day had created fear, intimidation feeling. This is what I had been talking about for a long time. It is very clear that a soldier lives in a barrel of a gun. The chairman of Election Commission, Badru Kigunda, urged Ugandans to remain peaceful, although he was one of the engineers who could not tell Ugandans the truth about what really happened in 2011 election. During that election in 2001, he appealed to the opposition to accept defeat honorably and remain within the legal provision. When you hear such a statement from the chairman of the Electoral Commission, then you begin to wonder what the chairman's role is. We all know that there had been buying of voters to bribe polling agents. Election conducted in this sort of environment cannot reflect the will of the people of Uganda, especially when the chairman of Election Commission is on a government ticket. Believe me, how fair or how fair can it be in his judgment? The opposition rejected results, and both leadership of Electoral Commission and the NRM held on to their stick, and they handed victory to the government in power. A Reuters witness confirmed having seen security present in the capital city, soldiers and police patrolling on foot, and in armored personnel carrier, and riot police were ferried around in trucks and riot-controlled vehicles, telling Ugandans that if you try to protest, I'll crush you. That is not my word. That is the word of the President of Uganda. If you try to demonstrate, I will crush you. And that word had been repeated again sometimes back this year. Warning the Bagandans to be careful, or he is going to crush them. This is a word coming from a national leader who has become a specialist in crushing whoever tries to step on his foot. Whoever tries to touch the leopard harness will be crushed. Let me be honest with you. That is not my word. I am just repeating the word of the general. And it seems to be a magic word that is being used by dictators around the globe. We Ugandans are really good in celebrating stolen foods. In the capital city, national resistance movement supporters came out to celebrate their victory in 2011. Scores of cars with speakers pumping out music. And plastered with signs reading, "Thank you, Pakalast, Pakalast," while they drove around the streets. Pakalast. That is a campaign word, a campaign slogan for the leader of national resistance movement. Pakalast mean until the end. He kept on telling Ugandans that when a king coughs, the hair turned blue. The economic hitmen and women under the national resistance movement knew that it is their time at this moment to reap the mustard seeds for the next 5 years. Corruption had been given a green light. Eat while I'm still in power. If I'm gone, there will be no eating. Eat while I'm still in power. If I'm not there, you will not get anything. If I'm gone, you, my supporters, will go with me. But make sure that you eat now when I'm still in power. That is the ideology put in place in order to rule Uganda. You see, when I tell you that I have a problem, and that problem is with the electoral observers, and what I don't like from these observers is something very simple. I don't hate them. I respect them as human beings. I respect them to be in the service of the people of Uganda, but not in the service of the President of Uganda, because their salary is being paid by taxpayers' money. Even the President, the money that is keeping him in the State House, that is taxpayers' money. It is we the people who are paying his salary. We the people who are financing him to buy those tear gas and gas us as the people of Uganda. We are the taxpayers who is keeping him in the State House. We are the taxpayers who are buying his cars, the motorcade. And we are the one who bought him that presidential jet he's using or misusing. But let me tell you something. It is time that Ugandans should wake up and realize that the internal and external observer has no additional values to our democracy. There's those observers, when they spend 10 days, 20 days in Uganda, they go home or where they come from with their pocket full of money. They are being paid to observe election, but they are not using their power properly. It could be that election observers does not have any power at all. The election observers are just there to fill up their pockets. Let's be honest, at least once in a while, and accept that that is what is happening. Whenever election is over, they come out and tell you that we found out that the power was exercised to such an extent that compromised the level of playing field between the competing candidates and political parties. But believe me, they then do nothing about it. Here, none of us can draw any best practices from their observation. Because if you say that you have seen unfairness and still you endorse such an election, then I begin to wonder. What is the use of having election observers, when they are powerless, when their words does not mean anything to you and me, when their words does not mean anything to the taxpayers, and why should we keep them observing elections? It raises a lot of hard questions whether we need those observers. It is useless to have observers when they are powerless, when they cannot change anything, when their words does not mean anything to Ugandans. They don't have any power at all as observers to effect changes. I think it is time to go back to a drawing table and revisit the aims and the objectives of the so-called internal and external observers. You see, when I went back, when I started looking at the elections in Uganda since we got independence, is when I realized that there's something that does not add up. We have here a country called Uganda. I'm comparing it now to a ship that is sailing around in deep sea without a captain. And that ship does not even know where he is going because it's being carried away. The wind is coming from the east, the wind is coming from the west, the wind is coming from the central. So wherever the wind is coming from, it is the wind that is pushing that ship to a destination unknown. Those observers, they are not a decision-making organs. They only observe, advise, and look and see and don't think. They cannot change anything. Their presence have not changed anything in Africa since independence. In most cases, they are guests of the present government. They are guests of the government in power. And that is how they earn their allowances. That is how they earn their allowances. They travel to different countries observing elections. That is why I have my doubt. And the chairman of the Electoral Commission is also not fair to himself. Because now that we have a lot of those who are working within the system, they're breaking ranks with the National Resistance Movement. They keep coming out and telling us that most of those elections were rigged, that those elections were stolen from the rightful owners, from the candidate who competed. for those positions. That is when you realize that there is something fishy going on, that there is something that does not add up. If you look at how many observers are coming around, the European Union Election Observers Mission deployed 120 observers from 27 European Union member states and Norway. They visited 643 polling stations and district tallying centers on all the districts of Uganda to observe voting. And these are the countries that will remain in Uganda to observe whatever election is taking place. Guys, it is time. We have to start thinking twice what we want. What we want. Because if the people who are working in the same government comes out and tells you that the election was rigged, that the vote was stolen, that those generals who are coming out are breaking rank with the ruling party, then it tells us a lot more than you think. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. I will be back.